Hello, hello, everybody. Just give me a moment. We're doing a couple of things with technology, making sure that we have good audio. So if I can get a check from somebody that's come into the room already on the chat, as you all know my drill, if you've been here before, tell me that you can hear me okay and that audio and video are good. So just waiting on Diane to come on in. Thank you, Tracy. And shutting down some things that look like they're slowing down my my Wi-Fi. So just give me a moment, you guys. We're going to get started, I promise. Let's see here. Just need to make sure we have as much juice as we need over here. All right. All right, we're waiting for Diane to come on in. We're texting right now. She's just connecting with her link. And as always, make sure we're charged up. You guys are familiar with the webinar Zoom platform by now, hopefully. You know where the Q&A is in the bottom of your screen. So if you have any questions at all, hi, Mom. Any questions at all, put them in the Q&A. And also on the chat. So talk amongst yourselves, you guys. Let us know where you are. If you are a health coach, let us know that you're a health coach and where you're from. Here she comes, my beautiful friend. Hello, Diane. Hello. Hi, you're muted. Yep, you're mute. Okay, so we're gonna. Hello. There you are. Okay, so we're gonna give you a minute to get situated, and I'm gonna do an introduction, a proper introduction, after I check on Facebook and make sure that we are streaming live with no problems. And it looks like we are. So let's get started. All right. So Diane Kazer is a former pro soccer player and bikini competitor. Her intense training kept her slim and toned, but flat-chested. Following breast implant surgery, she began to feel her body slowly change and spent years fighting mystery ailments like autoimmune disease, chronic fatigue, and gut infections. She now has created a comprehensive and effective transformational formula to help women heal themselves from symptoms and suffering caused by breast implants, from toxicity and infections to trauma and shame. So happy to have you here and having a conversation with you for everyone to learn about this important topic. Diane, let me tell you, I've been talking about what we're up to a little bit. You and I are up to some big things, working on spreading truth. Yay. So you guys are going to start to see this little dynamic right here everywhere. As the months go on, we have a lot to say. We have a lot of people we want to help and a big difference we want to make. So welcome here. Thanks for being with us today. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Raise the truth. We're here for a big purpose. And I'm so grateful to see 18 other women on here. We're all women, right? It's all.
Yeah, well, probably. There might be some men, but we are streaming out into Facebook. And as a reminder, we've had a lot of requests for people to come in, and they want us to talk about, we've got a couple of questions I've got written down to the side because they couldn't make it to the live. So I want to start just straight out the gate. I want you to give a little history, because being a bikini competitor, that's a position where everybody's looking at all your everything. Let's put that out there. So when did you realize that was what was causing your problems and your ailments and so on and so forth? Was it while you were competing? Was it like, give us some background on that?
No, and I'd like to start by pointing out the obvious right now, which is that check out my lips, everybody. My lips right now, I get semi-permanent tattoo down on my lips because when I was 19, 20 years old, I did Accutane and it absolutely destroyed my life. It destroyed my skin and I lost a lot of pigment in my lips. So that's why I might look a little bit like Miss Biggie right now, is because I just had it done yesterday. So they're a little swollen. And I like to share those kinds of things about natural beauty so that we can feel good in our own skin and realize that I don't say like, oh, I want to be a tree hugger and go total full on hippie, but I want to solve to find our natural beauty and what makes us feel good about ourselves in the least toxic way possible. So wanted to point that out because that is, I really enjoy being a woman. I enjoy being a healthy competitor. And that's, I think, the competitive spirit that drives Carmen and I to do the things like we're doing here, right? And I think that the reason why you guys are here is to learn how to be your best self. And I think that the greatest aspect of that is to reclaim and appreciate all of the parts that made you who you are, and to find your wholeness and your holistic health approach in the journey of loving every lesson that you learn. So to answer your question, Carmen, I did not learn anything about what natural beauty was when I was a bikini competitor. I learned a lot about, and I just got off a call with a client, brand new client. Her health issues started when she was a bodybuilder, a competitive bikini competitor. competitor on stage, you know, in 4-inch heels, clear heels, completely wrecking our metabolism, creating what I call beauty dysmorphia. I coined that term because there's body dysmorphia, and that's really what drives women to get on stage. And we are all on the metaphoric stage of life, right? It's not, you don't have to have been a bikini competitor to feel the way that I had and to learn what I learned. We're all under this guise of OCD and perfectionism and type A-ness and giving our beautiful parts, our magnificent, unique features of self to belong and to matter in these areas that we are seeing that what appears as though people are finding significance and belonging in these categories, right? So I got breast implants. I got an eating disorder. I learned about what Botox was and toxic beauty was by becoming a bikini competitor. So I got breast implants 1 year after I became a bikini competitor because I was 10% body fat and I was willing to do whatever it took, you know, to win literally at all cost. And what it cost me was almost my life.
Okay. So that traces back to your competitive soccer playing role, right? I mean, yeah. So you are definitely, that's not, I've never gotten implants. I've never done any of those things, but you put me in a CrossFit gym and endurance, and I'm looking for every 22-year-old I can beat at 47, right? Like when I was 47. So I feel you on that. And I want to say this too, is I have never been, I always say I'm not a fancy pants girl. I've never done my I've gotten my nails done once, I think. And then I went home and took it off. I'm not a person that's ever done my lips. I've never done injections. It's not my thing. And I don't know if that was an intuitive thing for me, like, as you know, as a person who just was afraid of things going into my body or what to do, you know, that would be irreversible. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But I will say this, that I worked with people just like you're talking about and just like you were, that were the competitive bodybuilders that destroyed their body. And how much chicken and broccoli can you eat to get as lean as you can? And then you come out the other side and your body is just, you know, cortisol is destroying you. Your self-esteem is in the crapper because the competition is over. How do you maintain a normal life how do you have children, all of that. So I hear you on all of that. And I'm so appreciative that you're willing to be transparent and talk about those things. So give us more information about what happened after you got your implants. You know, the title is, you know, breast implants and how they can make you sick, right? Breast implant illness. So you got the implants and you went back to the competition or whatnot. When did you start to feel like something was just not right with your body?
Yeah, it was immediately after I got my breast implants that I just knew, you know, like one of the things that I'm so excited about to do with you, Carmen, and for all of you to take part in this evolution of what Carmen and I are putting together is that your gut feeling will tell you every time. Like you have a gut instinct, a program inside of you that is intended to give you feedback in the language of symptoms.
Yes.
And it's like your body does not hate you. Your body, your creator loves you. Mm-hmm. And self-love is language, you know, is our symptoms are self-love language from the soul to signal that something is wrong inside. And that could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be chemical, or usually a combination of all of the above, right? Doctors like to dismiss it as, oh, it's just something, you know, genetic or, you know, just your hormones or whatever. And I went through all of that.
You're stressed out. You're tired.
Yeah, you're getting old. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a woman. I mean, hey, it sucks, but you're a woman and you're the lesser of the species. You know, sometimes we hear that too. We know that in medicine. And I'm not being sexist or anything. I'm just saying that these are the experiences that many of us go through, right? We are taught to literally dismiss our intuition.
Yes.
And with all of those stories, right? Those broken beliefs, I like to say. So right after I got my breast implants, I was like, oh God, I called it bipolar bowels. It was so fun being on stage in a bikini and having like the worst gas in the world. And like, but I got brand new boobs though, you know, hey, you know, what's the trade-off worth, right? So I had constipation, I had diarrhea, I had SIBO. It all happened very soon after. And then I found that over time, things were very difficult for me to manage inflammation, which I thought was really me having insulin sensitivity, blood sugar imbalances, and just like my trainer would shame the shit out of me. And my trainer would say, oh, you know, you're just really sensitive to carbs. You're harder to work with. And they would charge me more because I was harder to work with. And so, you know, here's me definitely in my little inferior cage of, well, I guess I got to do what I got to do. Maybe he's right. Feeling all insecure. It was triggering deep wounds within me that I didn't know were wounds, but I was doing what I had to do to win. Right. So I came back to him and I just kept asking, like, what do I need to do to change my diet? Ironically though, Carmen, my second show, I got first place overall and won the whole show. That was before I got breast implants. But then I was told, you got to get breast implants if you want to win and compete at the pro level and get on the magazine front cover and then be significant in this industry. But only until then, you would not be significant. And I'm paraphrasing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
the weed that was planted in me that if you want to win, here are the lists that you have to do, which also included taking steroids and fat burners. I did those things for a short time before I realized it was hurting me very badly. Third show was my third show. Right after I got my breast implants, I took 11th place.
Oh my gosh.
That's ironic. Maybe
Yeah.
not so ironic.
Yeah, right. Kind of a story that it was just trying. It's like they say, you know, pain is your biggest signaler, right? But then also, so are things that you work really hard for and you don't quite achieve. What's the message you got from that? Whatever it was that you were working so hard for, and you didn't get the goal, or your expectations weren't met. Where's the lesson in that, right? So,
Yeah.
so let's go further with this. How long did you have the implants? Like, what was the state? Give me the stages of, so the bipolar bowels, right? Constipation, diarrhea, which many people, and let's just, reminder, we're talking to, everyone here, general public, health and wellness industry, leaders and people, so there's people here that have no idea that constipation, diarrhea, that's not normal behavior ever. Okay. It's not normal to have bowels that are constantly trying to send you a message when that message is disrupted. But along with that, when you said I had inflammation, was the inflammation systemic, like throughout the entire body? Did you have skin flare-ups? Like, what else were the signs that something else was going on?
Would you like to see, am I able to share my screen?
Yeah, you should be able to. I've not done that on one of these before, but hold on.
I hit share my screen so you guys can
Okay. While you're
approve it if
looking,
so.
let me see if I can allow that, or how I
Yeah.
allow that.
And I'll talk while you're working on that part, but I wanted to share because I was struggling with a lot of symptoms. So the things that for women who have breast implant illness are a common thread of things that hundreds of thousands of women have come together and have, air quotes, anecdotally put together a list of symptoms that are classified as, if one woman had breast implant illness, what does it look like universally with most women, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so these are things I also put in my book because it could be very confusing. It could be very isolating. It could be very frustrating to go about this on your own. And I did for the most part, because there wasn't a lot of health practitioners who run functional medicine labs and who also address shame and broken beliefs that, no, these breast implants define who I am. So, it's not my breast implants that are causing me problems. That every woman has some kind of a problem surfacing with breast implant illness. And what that looks like for many women, they have abdominal pain, they have chronic viral infections like Epstein-Barr, herpes, HPV, that just don't really go away no matter how many medications that they take or labs that they run or prescriptions that they have. I'll share my screen because I just got the permission so you guys can see this. This is what I'm referring to here is this symptom checklist. And this is what I give to women who get my book, and also who, you guys get a bunch of freebies if you guys want to get my book. So these things, difficulty swelling is a big one. It almost feels like somebody's hand is around your neck and around your throat. Mm-hmm. And it could present as maybe having a bit of Epstein-Barr, having, a cold or some kind, or having a sore throat. So it depends on each person. Most people will think, oh, I have a cold or flu going on. sensitivity to sunlight, sinusitis, throat clearing, food sensitivities. That is a huge one that many women experience, that I experience. Many women come to me and they can only eat like 4 or 5 foods. This has been going on for a very long time. They just did not know how to listen to their body or what these symptoms might have meant, but that they were pointing to the ticking time bombs that were living inside of them that many doctors are not trained, that could be part of the problem because they're the ones prescribing it after someone gets a mastectomy, right? So just things to watch out for. Heartburn, GERD. I see a lot of leaky gut with women. I have also seen a lot of H. pylori on stool tests when I'm running with them, and we look a lot deeper than doctors do with just typical stool testing. We're looking for function. And to answer your question on that, on the question that you asked about inflammation, Carmen, I had systemic inflammation, a lymphatic system was completely burnt out. My throat, I was swollen here, my lymph nodes, my whole face would look like a circle all the time. My inguinal nodes were swollen, which is in my groin. My stomach was bloated like all the time. I had chronic SIBO, no matter how many antibiotics, no matter how many antimicrobials that I took. This sounds like fun, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Blurred vision, edema, swelling all the time. Migraines, headaches. I didn't have a lot of those, but a lot of women do. Muscle twitches, joint muscle pain. I had the worst back pain. I could not resolve it. Spent over $100,000 in this journey trying to fix it. And then I took my breast implants out, found that it resolved a lot of that lower back pain because it's a lot of weight to carry. These implants rolls our shoulders forward, tweaks our spine, and pulls our head forward. So it's very difficult to detox. It's very difficult. No wonder why a lot of women have brain fog. It's very difficult to keep infections away, to digest our food. It's difficult to breathe. So a lot of women have a lot of heavy breathing. They have a hard time taking a deep breath. Lots of gut infections, lots of PMS, irregular bleeding, infertility, low sex drive, hormonal imbalances, acne. The whole list is right here. And this is the most common for women who have breast implants. The ones that I had were all listed here. But I also want to say that I had issues before I had breast implants too. So I wasn't just completely in the clear when I put them in. So one of the biggest myths for women who get breast implants is that when they start hearing about breast implant illness, they're like, oh, that's it. It's the breast implants. That's the thing. And then they get them out and then they feel somewhat better, but they don't resolve all the problems. So it's not the end game just to get them out. There's a lot more to do after that.
Yeah, that's an important point. So let's stay there for a minute because, we talk about this all the time where people have, well, I've got these problems I can't, or these symptoms I can't identify. I don't know where they're coming from, but my doctor says it's this and it's this and it's this. So when your body is already under some form of attack of some sort, maybe, it's autoimmune that is building, sometimes you have an autoimmune condition, antibodies don't show up for months to years after, right? After the insult has started on the body, then you go and you put foreign objects in on top of an already inflamed body. And it's just like, you can't win with that. There is no winning on that. And then you start to blame the one thing, like you just said, and then you take it out. And then those other things go unidentified for more time, more years pass where you're like, well, maybe it was my thyroid. That's familial, right? Maybe it was, arthritis starting, whatever it may be. So you go down, and how long, let's do this too. I want to hear, how long were you on that seeking train? So for me, when I started having chronic pain, I started down the rabbit hole of where could this be coming from? It went on for 10 years. My story is, everybody's heard it, 10 years, 21 doctors, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, only to be diagnosed with Hashimoto's and said, here's a pill, go on your way. But I'm like, but why is it happening? Mm-hmm. So how many years did you go before, on that journey where you finally went, okay, this could be one of the biggest reasons I'm not well?
Absolutely. These are the suffering stories that we hope to help you all find your sovereignty through. So I'm not going to share this with any of you unless you promise to listen intently and to do something with it with yourself. Okay.
Yes.
I don't want to waste my breath to anybody who just wants to just in one ear, out the other, or over their head. This is serious talk.
Yep.
My body was speaking to me for a couple of years after dance. Thank God it led me off the stage, off of the demonic system that is the bodybuilding industry. It's mm-hmm. disgusting. And it's Barbie bodybuilding. I had literal entity attachments inside of my brain that told me that it was never enough. We're not born with that. So that's the deepest root of all of that. And Carmen, you didn't have as much of that as you did. I grew up in Northern California. It also depends on who you grew up with, your parents. You know, there's a 10 prison bar system that Carmen and I will talk about one of our future episodes of like how we inherited the broken beliefs that we did. So I'll just say that. So 2 years after bodybuilding, when I got out of it, I quit bodybuilding and became a yoga teacher. I thought, well, maybe that'll be it. If I, you know, took my breast implants with me and I became a yoga teacher, and I thought, well, maybe that's going to be it. I'm going to teach spirituality. I was already a yoga student of 12 years. And I thought, well, maybe if I'm teaching it, I will embody it and that'll become it more. And it still didn't bring me all the way across the finish line. Then I traveled the world for 4 months. I was there in 2012 when the Great Awakening really began. Came back from that trip and was like, where do I want to live now? Moved to Orange County, got deeper into, you know, more toxic beauty things like botox and beauty toxic products and procedures, and just around that mindset of always needing to fix something.
Yes.
You know, that environment, that's the second biggest predictor of the choices that you make and who you think you need to be is who you surround yourself with. The first is your own thoughts about yourself and life. So being around that environment, I was like, oh, I gotta continue to keep up with the whoever's around me. That competitive drive still inside of me. So there's a light and the shadow side of competition, right?
Right.
If you're always competing against your former self, then yay, and being a better person. But if you're competing against others and trying to, this is all my broken beliefs of my inner 12-year-old, right? I know this now. There's always those. So I was trying to fix the wrong things. I was trying to, you know, spirituality. And then I was like, well, that's still not enough. And so I became a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. And I started learning functional medicine lab work and going deeper into the stressors that were causing a lot of these symptoms. I got my labs back and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm eating so healthy. I'm eating 6 meals a day as a bodybuilder, you know, a little bit less now. I was still eating the bodybuilding diet, but I'm doing yoga, I'm exercising, I'm taking care of myself, I'm doing detox, I'm doing all these things. At that point, probably spent about 50 grand. And I'm like, and I have terrible labs. My gut was destroyed. I had all the different bugs that you can imagine, candida, parasites, bacteria, SIBO. I had hormonal issues. I had estrogen dominance. I had progesterone deficiency. No wonder why I was depressed, right? Progesterone deficiency is a major cause of depression. And I had testosterone metabolism issues. I just looked at this whole thing and went, how could this be? How could this be? Like, I'm doing all the things, right? And so that was probably in 2015 when I was at this point of, you know, 2 years down the road after becoming an FDN and looking at my second round of labs, I was still the same. And nothing was really getting better. I was also getting off birth control. I was trying all these things. I was detoxing one thing at a time. But I had been at this. If you fast forward all of that from when I was an FDN to now, I've been an FDN for 8 years. And it wasn't until 7 years after becoming an FDN did I finally remove my breast implants. 7 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And over $100,000. I mean, I bought really cool things. They still own, like that sauna behind me. And so I have acquired a lot of things. But I would say, was it all worth it to learn what self-love and radical self-compassion and self-respect is? Absolutely. I feel like I could die tomorrow and be like, I've conquered life. Yeah. But then again, we couldn't have a podcast, so I won't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Okay, so let's I want to talk a little bit about okay, are there any safe breast implants? I mean, you've done the research. There are no safe breast implants. Okay, what kind of breast implants what are they made out of? Is it still silicone? I don't even know.
Yeah, let me show you this picture. So another one in the slideshow that I put, because these are common questions that I get. I want you guys to see these things. And I could share this slide too later if you'd like, Carmen.
Yep.
So there's 38 toxins in breast implants. These are comprised of xenoestrogens, which are estrogen mimickers. So they drive up estrogen in your own body because your own produced estrogen that your body's making can't get in the cells because the cell wall doors, the receptor sites are blocked with these things that mock estrogen. They look like it. So like the plastics of parabens and phthalates and all the things that are listed here. Heavy metals, people don't know that there's heavy metals in breast implants. Plastic, of course, but I made the assumption, and I think we all do, that, oh, okay, well, you know, just this bag of silicone and that's it. Or it's just this bag of saline and that's it. But just like everything, there's a lot of parts and pieces that are added to a concoction to make it gelatinous or to form and shape in a certain way. for it to not leak, which would be the idea, but they do. They bleed. They all gel bleed because the body heats these things up. So on the outside, even saline implants are made of silicone. So some people are like, oh, you know, they've done those tests and all the headlines say that BIA-ALCL, which is a form of cancer that is known to be caused by textured silicone breast implants. Sure, that's what's in the press, but it doesn't mean that these other things are safe, because the body knows best. Your body will tell you if it doesn't like something, and it'll tell you in many different ways. We just want you to know how to get a clue from it. These things here that are listed are sometimes in smaller amounts or larger amounts, but these are things that I would never wish to even touch my skin, let alone live inside of my body, right over my heart, right? And this is what's recommended to women who have had breast cancer. So as if the whole journey of breast cancer is not enough, let's throw in these implants that are filled with over 38 toxins. And they're different for each type of implant, but they're all virtually the same in the sense that they have a ton of different chemicals in them that the body may never come in contact with because these things are inside the implants. But for most women, they leak, they rupture, and they bleed. And over time, the longer a woman has had them in, the longer that they've had a chance to bleed throughout the body, and then they start to move around. You think of your body like the ocean, the planet, these liquids, this stuff ended up in my stool. And that's, for me, that was the ending point. Let me find that picture where you can actually see. I don't know if I put it in the slideshow, but it's in my book where you can see that the silicone, it looked just like what was inside of my breast implant, because my dog ate my breast implant the day after I had them taken out. I brought them home and she ate my breast implant, and I was like, oh great, now my dog has breast implant illness.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right?
Oh my gosh.
She can write a book too, because she has it as well. But she punctured them. She didn't eat the whole thing, but she punctured them. And so I was able to go, oh, wait, Kayla, that's pretty cool. You wanted me to see what it was made of. And I compared the texture of what was coming out of in my stool. Wow. I know what parasites look like. You know, I know what parasites look like and what they smell like and what they feel like. And I like break them down and see if they decompose or not. And silicone, it won't decompose no matter like how long it sits out. So I just sat it out, nothing changed. It was still the same gelatinous structure as this inside of the implant. Do we know if these implant materials that gel, bleed, leak, and break and rupture in women's bodies, so do we know if they could ever leave the body? No. Just like plastic, it takes thousands of years for it to biodegrade and it ends up in our oceans. What do you think the inside of our bodies look like with these things inside of us?
So you're telling me that like I saw in there, like, I mean, solvents, cleaning solvents and fluoride and all of that. So you're telling me that so say someone has breast implants and they get punctured or they, you know, something happens to them or whatnot. You're telling me that you can't get this out of your bloodstream, or it doesn't eliminate from the body? Like that, surely not. Yeah. Warning, graphic picture coming. Holy crap. Is that yours?
No, mine are, I'll show you some other women's pictures too. So this is what these things look like inside of the body.
Oh my
and
God.
I've seen, you know, I've seen thousands of these, being in several groups and helping hundreds of women. And I've seen things where there is mold inside of the implants, growing inside of the implants. I've interviewed 15 women for a big project I'm doing right now where these things almost killed them, causing suicidal. You know, there's really high rates of women who become depressed and suicidal because these things inside of them. It could aggravate an already existing bully inside of their mind that says, I don't belong here or whatever. But this is also coming from women who weren't super depressed before, who just had breast cancer. But I also think that's an emotional thing as well. So these things, when they rupture, they look like this. The idea is that the doctor, the surgeon, knows how to, and you want a surgeon, if you're going to remove them, you want a surgeon that knows how to do a total end block and total capsulectomy, which means that they know how to remove what is called the capsule. So the capsule is this hamburger looking material that forms around the implants. Your body is so magical. It will form this material that looks like a hamburger around the implants, because the body goes, no, that's non-self, that's non-DNA. These things we have to wall them off. Like, you know, Trump says, build a wall. The body goes, build a wall. So the body builds a wall to protect self from these foreign invaders that could literally kill you. And I don't say that, you know.
So hold on, let me put this in perspective. So and I'm going to use the feet for an analogy here, just so people understand this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've ever had plantar fasciitis, right? If anybody's ever had plantar fasciitis, you've gone to the doctor and they go, oh, well, you have a heel spur and a piece of bone has grown on the back of the foot, right? So you've got heel spurs and plantar fasciitis. So what happens, which I found this out when I went through 2 years of chronic foot pain and no one told me what the hell was going on with me either, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I never had the spur, but they said, the body was growing a piece of bone on the back of the heel to protect the fascia on the bottom of the foot from so much pressure. So
Mm-hmm.
when you say we're miraculously made, truly we are. I mean, you guys, we scab over to protect the insides of our bodies to heal. So what you're saying, so I can be clear, is that the body created or grew this tissue to protect the rest of the body from the foreign invader, which is the breast implant. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Ugh.
It is.
And that's what that is. That's disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when I started seeing pictures like that, I thought first I was like, that's disgusting. That was my first reaction. But then I thought, that's amazing. That is a total miracle that my body is looking out for me more than my ego.
Yeah.
And once I saw and started collecting the data, and I got my thermogram done, and I got an ultrasound done, and I did not get a mammogram. Do not get a mammogram. I mean, I can't be your doctor, but mammograms are known to rupture implants.
Mm-hmm.
And they also miss 55% of the tissues, and hence the diagnosis. So you want a sonocytiny. You could listen to my podcast, or you go to cleansehealignite.com and listen to my podcast on that. It's probably about 6 weeks ago I released it. And it's a woman who does a lot of the sonocytinies, which are, it's like it's the next breast thing beyond mammograms, because it combines the technology of, ultrasounds and thermography and mammograms. And it takes a lot more pictures. So it can help. A lot of doctors from Cedars-Sinai are referring people to her because they can actually see more. So that's a big, big side note. Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. So as far as, the thermography is concerned, I've had thermography. Even the thermography expert that I saw in Nashville a couple of years ago said, if you have breast implants, I do not recommend mammography, right? But if you don't, it is also every couple of years, as long as you don't have the genetic predisposition to breast cancer, a mammogram can be beneficial. And alongside thermography, right? But just not every year, and even skipping 2 years or whatnot. So when people go in and are told, when they have breast implants and they're told, well, you need a mammogram, do the doctors, do they not understand? I mean, that's a lot of pressure. If anybody hasn't had a mammogram, just trust us on this one. If you're not if you haven't had one yet, yeah. Anyway, they flatten you like a pancake. Like your breast fits into something that is this small. It is literally squished down this small, and they pull all of this and tuck it and stick it and all that. I mean, how can doctors not believe that could puncture or rupture something that is inside of your body? How is this a safe thing?
It's not. This is why I literally made an agreement with God when I was going through all of this, and I was sitting in my sauna, and I felt these lumps around my implants, and I had been suffering and struggling for such a long time that I had 15 pounds of inflammation on my body. I felt like I was just a firefighter, a tired firefighter running around inside of my body, trying to kill arsonists, but there was too many of them. There was 2 of them, and they were my breast implants.
Yeah.
And, no wonder why we're so fatigued today, right? It's because we're looking, we're looking for the wrong things in the wrong places with the wrong people. And I'm not saying that doctors are bad. Absolutely not. It's the training that they have been brainwashed into, that it would require an admission of doctors to say that, oh, this is the same resource that told us that these other things like these medications or other implants or mesh, vaginal mesh, you start looking at how many things that they've prescribed or recommended that they've done no research on, or limited research on, or they've skewed the data, or they've thrown out lots of people who have had negative results of things like birth control and breast implants and botox, but they throw them out of the studies so that they can skew the results. and reduce the amount of appeared consequences that one might get for getting those very things, right? So it's absolutely skewed. And with mammography, those are things that are covered by insurance. So doctors are really up against the wall with these things, right? You know, doctors can also hear or know better, but they're not allowed to prescribe better because it's not within what's covered under your insurance plan, right?
Right.
So they're paid based on what is the insurance companies tell them that is okay. So a lot of doctors are actually leaving medical practice and starting their own because they don't want to be stuck onto the tethers of what is allowed based on funding. Mammography is really, really old technology. You know, it's like having an iPhone 3 when we've got the iPhone 12 out right now, right? So
Right.
the iPhone 12 of it, minus the 5G, of course, because, you know, sauna cities are actually very, very low radiation. And I don't think there is any radiation at all with mammography. You're looking at a lot of, you know, I think it's something like 5 Fukushima explosions of radiations or something crazy like that. I talk about in the podcast. Veronica Desania talks about this too, you know, with her whole breast cancer survivor. So our breasts and our whole bodies and our babies, and for men, your balls, we deserve better.
Yeah. Yeah. Your screen changed, by the way. I don't know if you're aware of that, but you look, your vision, it might be a light. There it is. Okay.
It's
All
too
right.
bright.
Is it too bright? Yeah, I did that before we started. My son shifts in this room too. All right, so I want to Francis has a question. What
Yeah,
specific
Francis.
labs do you recommend for someone with breast implants?
Great question. So the first thing that I do is I like to see clinical correlation. How toxic might you be, right? So are symptoms presenting themselves that could be based on neurotoxic exposure, accumulation in the body, right? So I actually have a quiz. If you go to my website, dianekazer.com, and then you click on take this quiz at the top. And Carmen, you and I could do all this resource stuff later, but I'm just telling them right now.
Yeah, I'll share it all in the replay.
Okay, cool. So you can take the neurotoxic quiz, and then there's a little ebook with it that talks about what main sources of neurotoxins are. Big one is toxic beauty, of course, for many women. So what is your neurotoxin score? In other words, how many heavy metals might you have in your body, or things like mold, mycotoxins, that are all really well connected in the research with women anecdotally as well who have breast implants. So that's my first thing. It doesn't cost you anything to take a survey or a quiz, right? So if you're low on that, which very few people are, but if you're low on that, doesn't mean that you don't have any issues, right? It just means that maybe you don't have a lot of a neurotoxic buildup. Or what I find with many people is they tend to under exaggerate their symptoms. They're like, oh, well, it's not that bad. You know, we can do that. So be totally honest with yourself with these things, right? It takes someone who's really aware of their body to know how to answer those candidly. And the idea with that score would be that you're lower than 25. You would be considered low if you're lower than 50, but that quiz online doesn't give you your actual number. It'll just say low, medium, or high. So we'll help in the podcast later when Carmen and I are putting some stuff together. I can get you the whole quiz so that you can have an actual number. Your medium between 50 and 100 and your high over 100. I have seen in my practice that the highest women that I have seen score highest are women that have breast implants, or who also have done Botox or have had chronic toxic beauty, or also a really mean bully within. I call the bully bitch. And that's the root of a lot of this stuff. Or also betraying self and pedestalizing anybody else as to knowing better than we do about what our body's trying to say to us. So that's step one, is to find out how toxic that you might be. You could also follow that up by doing a challenge test, a urine challenge test, to see what your body has inside of you as far as toxic load that shows up. And that is something that you're going to want to do with an EDTA. And that is something that is what it does, it starts to release toxins and it binds to these toxins so that it shows up on a lab test. That's a second step. Third step is I would look at just your hormones. I would look to see, and not just a blood test, because it's very superficial. It doesn't say anything about what your body's actually utilizing for hormones. All it's saying is what your body has running around your blood that could be bound by a protein and hence unavailable to the cells for use. So it's bound and unbound proteins in a blood test. So I say, okay, you can do a blood test, but I'd rather follow that up with a urine test to see. I love Dutch testing. What is your body making? What is your body using? And what is your body clearing? Because if you're not clearing hormones properly, which I see a lot of women who have breast implants, estrogen dominant, and because breast implants are xenoestrogen, right? So I tend to see a lot of women estrogen dominant and progesterone deficient. So they feel like they've got PMS, PMDD symptoms all the time, kind of menopause, hot flashes. A lot of these things present with women who have breast implants, and they also have low progesterone. And progesterone is our antidepressant. It helps to, stimulate hair growth and beauty and a lot of things. Progesterone is responsible for a lot of things. So I like to see those two side by side, but I don't always need a blood test. I'd rather see a urine, gush test. So that's number 2/3. The fourth one is absolutely, we want to see the blood test part of your hormones would be also to look at your thyroid. How is your thyroid performing? And I'm not just talking about TSH, T3, and T4, and that's it. I want to see also how your body is doing with also if you have an autoimmune reaction. So Carmen, you had Hashimoto's too.
I still have it.
Still have it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
mine will kind of come back if I'm not paying attention, right? If I teeter into a stressor of any kind, my body could go into a flare-up for sure.
Yes, me too.
So it's like that's our genetic susceptibility and our patterns, which awareness is awesome, right? So I self-diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which thank God I became an FDA because I know how to look for those things. And all my doctors, after doing 12 years with the blood test, were like, I don't know, there's no thyroid problem. My thyroid thing started when I was 18. So this is like on top of, a shaky foundation, which was my genetic structure and pre-susceptibility to it, right?
Yeah.
So my personal belief is anybody who has autoimmune history or a susceptibility because of genetics should not have any of these things installed in their body, like ever, because this is a huge environmental trigger, which we know is the formula for triggering autoimmune disease. So I want to see a full thyroid panel to see if you have any kind of antibodies to your thyroid. I'd also like to see what your iron levels look like, your ferritin levels look like, to see how your hemoglobulins are, to see what your body's doing. Because I also see that there's 3 types of anemia, and I have one of them, and that's the low ferritin one. I have issues with circulation, and part of that was because I have lymphatic stagnation, and I had for 10 years when I had breast implants, right? So I also like to see how your body's doing with iron and red blood cells. And a lot of women have double periods or they're constantly bleeding, big endometriosis, all kinds of, I like to see the roots of some of those things. I also like to see if you have Epstein-Barr, not just like you've had it before. I see EBV, a lot of people testing this wrong. I like to see if you have a current flare-up or you're on your way to a current flare-up. So there's several different markers to see a full, complete Epstein-Barr analysis, because I see a lot of EBV with women, who have breast implants. What it does is that, and this is the fourth one. So the first one's toxicity. The second one is your hormonal and endocrine function. The third one is your thyroid function. And the fourth one is your gut. In your gut, we're looking at, I do a full GI panel. In your gut, and this is not something that's covered by insurance. Like none of this stuff your doctor would get. So one of the biggest myths I say, and I have 8 of them in my book, is the myth is that you go to your doctor and they're going to understand all this stuff.
Yep.
Even functional medicine doctors are like, this is stuff I had to create because it wasn't out there. So I make it easy in my book, right? So this last one is looking at a GI panel to see what your areas of inflammation, like what your inflammatory markers look like, what kind of infections that you have, what kind of imbalances that you might have in your gut microbiome, what kind of food intolerances that you might have, mainly gluten, because I see a lot of that with women who have breast implants or toxic beauty issues. And the last one is immune system function. So this one hit me the hardest, and this is the main reason that put me over the edge to say, get these things the hell out of your body, is there's something called Secretory Iga, and that is your main immune marker to tell you how well your body does in your gut, which is where 80% of your immune system lives.
Right.
How well does your body respond to toxins, infections, emotions that are hard to work through, stressors? And the goal is like 1,200, 1,500. Mine was 44.
Yeah.
44.
I've seen
Still
some
the
low
lowest
markers on those too. I've seen some, I've seen them down in the 20s, 40s, things like that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I can I push this home? I want to say this too, for everybody who's like, oh, well, I've had those tests and I'm fine and I've got implants.
Yep.
We don't get sick overnight. You don't get implants and tomorrow all of a sudden all of your labs are showing abnormalities. You don't get autoimmune disease or you don't have, all of a sudden get tired and then the next day you show up with antibodies and things like that. Sickness is a cumulative thing. So when you are, you know, I mean, I went all of those years with nothing showing up for my thyroid. And then poof, when I finally asked for the right test, I'm a couple hundred, you know, and a couple hundred points on my antibodies rising. There's activity, any kind of activity. Like we're looking at, you know, ANA and CRP, like C-reactive protein, and anti-nuclear antibodies. And even something as simple, you guys, and everybody gets these. If you go to the doctor and you've had a virus or a sick infection or something, they'll say, we're going to run a CMP and a CBC on you. Well, that's a complete blood count, real simple, CBC, complete blood count, and a complete metabolic panel. Those are the most basic blood tests people are going to do to check you for infections, for your urine, for your, to see how your sodium, potassium are working and things like that. So just remember this, just because you had 2 reports that say everything is okay, doesn't mean that your body is okay. So retesting, following, you know, making sure that you are checking the things that Diane's talking about. That's exactly what's in my thyroid book, by the way, that exactly the same labs that you're talking about, right? It is a cumulative thing. And so making sure that you have, and this is my suggestion for anyone, if you are dealing with symptoms of any kind, get a good old fashioned calendar that you write in with a pen, y'all, not a phone, and start writing these things down in your calendar. So you have a history. Well, you know, last January 27th, you know, I was dealing with, I don't know, I'm making this up, a SIBO or something like that, or I was dealing with excessive gas. And then 2 weeks went by and it got worse or this or this. You need to start tracking your history if you have problems at all, especially if you've got breast implants, so you can tie things back and figure out where did these things come from? When did they start? That's just a good practice anyway, if you have symptoms or problems, right? Yeah. We do have a question too from the other Carmen. Hi, that's it. That's probably maybe the 9th Carmen I've ever met in my life. For some reason, there's not many of us, but she says, can you develop an allergic reaction is what she's wondering.
Oh, to the breast implants? Is that what you mean, Carmen?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the reaction, the allergic reaction to the breast implants, it is the shell that's formed around it. You know, that is the body going, okay, I need to help you to heal from this wound. I mean, you go through a surgery, and I'm looking at Jill's question too on how she went through the same journey, and she had to have these. What happens is the implant that's surrounded by the capsule, which looks like the hamburger, right? That capsule starts to migrate, and it looks like a cancer. It starts to kind of migrate. It looks like a virus, and it starts to spread. And so there's these tissues adheres to your ribs and in between your ribs. So think about when we're trying to breathe like this. I told you that one of the big telltale symptom of having breast implant illness or having issues with your breast implants is that you can't expand and contract your lungs because your ribs are still held together. So you can't take a full deep breath with your diaphragm because it's limited based on that tissue that is in between your rib cage, right? So I know that I had to have the same thing done, by the way, Jill. I'm combining some of you that I'm seeing asked here. But if you're asking about does every woman develop an allergy, not every woman has symptoms that are, let's say, as severe as others. I have double homozygous for MTHFR. I've got COMT, I've got CVS. I don't have the HLA-DQ, mold genetic SNP that a lot of people do, that if they develop mold around the tissues of breast implants, they may struggle more. But what I will say is that in between the capsule and the implant, and my own personal surgeon, who is a big advocate on all of this, Dr. Strawn, he lives in Orange County, Newport Beach, which is where I used to live. And he said that he went to, because I've been pumping him with all this research, and he's in my book, and I love that I've teamed up with a lot of these doctors to present this information to you guys, because it's not just like what Diane found in an article. I've done years and years, 12 hours a day research on this stuff. And I talked to a lot of people to put this whole book and essentially like my thesis together to present it to you. And what he said is that he went to a symposium with several plastic surgeons in Orange County. And what they found is that they found 10 different types of bacteria in between the implant and the capsule. Now imagine, if you will, if you know anything about cavitations, which are these holes in our wisdom teeth that gets siphoned off. And that's still a hole or like a root canal that has disease in it, right? And so cavitations, which 86% of us who've had a root canal or a wisdom tooth pulled have one. And inside of that hole, bacteria, parasites, anaerobes can live. And no amount of antibiotics will ever get to and through the skin or that tissue to penetrate into the hole where these bugs live. So think about that for a moment. Women who have implants are just like people who have cavitation. So this is, again, like pulling it all together, that you don't just have to have implants to have these problems. People have cavitations too, and that's the source of a lot of people's problem. And Lyme, by the way, the source of Lyme, by the way. And taking all these antibiotics to get to bacteria that is causing your body problems that can never die will cause antibiotic resistance, which is what Andy Wakefield says he thinks is one of the biggest root causes for death in the next like 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
So that is, my response to that. And as long as your body is trying to fight off a foreign invader, it will be focused here, and it can't handle other toxins or infections that are coming in. And so therefore you develop sensitivities and allergies and intolerances from that. So is it indirect or direct? Don't know.
Yeah.
But everybody reacts differently.
Yeah. Just like with your, with your liver, if you're taking a bunch of supplements and you are, you're drinking alcohol, it's going to go after the alcohol first, and it's not going to go after the supplements. Like, it goes after the most toxic thing in the body first, and the other things are left to fend for themselves, to remove themselves from the body. Right.
Yep.
So I just want to bring clarity that Diane, she rattled off a lot of different SNPs and DNA markers and things like that. When we talk about, methylation and MTHFR and genetic SNPs, which means there's a mutation on the gene, doesn't mean like, you're going to die from it or anything like that. We're just saying that we all are walking around with some form of mutations on some of our genes, which means we have a genetic predisposition, but that doesn't mean that that's going to happen to us. Right. So, for someone to say, well, my grandma and her grandma's grandma had heart disease, so I'm going to have it. I'm just going to eat this way because I'm destined to, we always say genetics load the gun, environment and our behaviors and all of that pulls the trigger on that. So we've got just a couple minutes left, but I want to tell Jill, because Jill's one of my dear friends. She's one of the people that's leading the charge with us for Coaches Against Censorship.
Hey, Jill.
Yes. You guys will get to know each other very well. Her story, I remember when you messaged me, Jill, and you were going in for your surgery. I remember all of that. I remember messaging you the day after and all of those things. So I want to commend you for all of the steps that you took to take care of your health, and to, seriously put your health first. So that we want to follow up with the answer to the question. She's asking if a client comes to you with breast implants, and it looks like she's out there championing against them as well. How do you approach the topic with them if they have the breast implants? Is this something, that you mentioned right away once you've established a relationship? Like, what's your approach if someone comes to you and says, I've had this stomach problem, and you're like, well, you got something else going on too. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you handle that? Because Jill's a health coach and she works with people on myriads of things with her health as well.
Yeah. Okay, good. Awesome. Jill, thank you for the book. I love that you just shared all of that. Please never apologize. Sorry for the anything, because I love you for who you are, for sharing your heart the way that you just did. So amazing. In fact, I encourage more of that. So to answer a question, blame it on Diane Kazer.
There you go.
You could say, hey, there's a lot of data and a lot of research around this, and I don't want to continue to omit something that many people did on my journey. And many hundreds of thousands of women are finding healing on the other side of removing their implants. That it could be a possibility, with anything, not just implants. Present something to a patient, a client, a lover, whomever. Could it be possible? Might it be possible? And just pose the question, or would you be willing to consider, right? That's for anything. If you tell somebody, oh, it's the gluten, it's the this, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to touch the hot stove. Like the 6-year-old inside of them is going to be like, oh, who the hell? Don't tell me what to do. You're not the boss of me, right? So it's just would you be willing to consider the possibility of that, right? And then also, I am working on right now, and I'm almost done, and I'm so excited to give you guys this stuff, is I'm giving my book away for free. So what you could do, if you just pay for shipping, and I'll get that, I'm getting that up, I'm almost done. So you could get some of those for your patients. You can get that for yourself. You can send the link, and you can make me the bad guy, if you will, the bad girl, and just say that this is, Diane, and she's worked with several doctors, because sometimes they're like, oh, she's not a doctor, but she's a practitioner. She's a woman who struggled. She's a woman who went through a suffering, and you can share your story as well, and really just put it out there like, I'm coming to you without judgment here. Slow your tone, eye contact, look into their soul, and speak to them as though you would want to be spoken to if you were struggling with something and you wanted to know the truth. So it's how you frame the question before you get to it. And then I also follow it up with this. This is in my book. So I would have my book handy. Here's a picture of my boobs. So this is my before and after. Women, we have all been raised to be very vain, right? My boobs before were inflamed. They were causing me pain. They were too big. This is me after. And so women get really concerned that they're going to look weird and their boobs are going to be saggy and small and disproportionate again. For 3 years, I put off getting mine out because I was afraid of how I would look after. But I had what's called fat transfer, which is to say, and this is when women perk up and they get real excited. They go, wait, what's that? And I had fat moved from my waistline and my lower belly and my inner thighs. And I had it moved to where my former implants were so that my doctor could rebuild my breasts with fat tissue that some women look at that and go, they can take fat from my problem areas and put it in my breasts. I am listening. So what came after this is that I lost 5% body fat. I lost 15 pounds of inflammation. This was me 6 weeks after the protocol that I teach women to embark upon after they get their implants out. It's a very specific detox protocol for women on the other side of breast explant surgery. And I wanted to show you this. This is where I am now. This is where I was then. I was doing Botox also. This is me after I did Botox. So the third picture, and pink hair and breast implants. This picture is more me now. And I feel like I'm finally myself. So that's what I would say. And those pictures, by the way, are in my book. So you could show their, pictures of, you don't have to look deformed after, but here's what a lot of women are experiencing. You can show her my symptom survey and say that this is very common. But you can say that there's so many women, and if you get the free book, you'll also get, there's 3 videos that I did with 5 women in each one of these interviews. I asked them why they got breast implants, what their journey was, when they started suffering, what they tried to do. In other words, their $100,000 journey, 10 doctors, 21 years or whatever, and then where they are now. That gives women so much hope to know that they're not alone and to also make their choice. And then they make the choice and if they say, no, I'm fine, I'm cool with that. Girlfriend, you planted a seed and that's all you can do for now. And then you just keep showing up for her and keep showing up for her. So I would frame it something like that, talk to their emotional body, talk to their spiritual body, talk to their physical body, let them be in the driver's seat of choice, but let them know whatever, and also get into their fears. What are you afraid of? What do breast implants mean to you? And that I have a whole module dedicated to the emotions and the connections and the ties and the stories that we have to breast implants, what we think that they mean, what people will feel, what women will feel when they don't have them, what will they lose, what are they afraid of losing? A lot of women are afraid of losing their youth or their partner will leave them. There's so much beyond, way deeper than the skin's, surface. So yeah. I would approach all of that.
Okay. So we got literally 3 questions, a couple of minutes real quick.
Okay.
One person said you should not get in a sauna with breast implants. Is that true?
I don't agree with that all the way. And I understand what you're saying. There are certain saunas that, and it depends on where you sit, depends on what other things are going on with you. I would not sit in a gym sauna. Absolutely not. I asked this questions about saunas in my interview with the guy who owns Sauna Space. And then I also did an interview with the Full Spectrum Sauna. And they both said that it's okay, but there's within parameters, right? So if you have major symptoms, I would not go in there. I would get them out and then use the sauna as a great way to detox for sure. But I would not get super close. So this is an iffy thing, right? Depends on the person. I would not sit super close to the bulbs. So that's that question. What's the next one?
Who was your doctor?
Oh, Dr. Bradley Strawn. He's in Newport Beach. He has about 1.5 year waiting list.
Wow, I bet. Okay. Yeah. So, and we'll put that in, we'll share that name and all of your information about the book in the replay. So you guys, we will send all that out. Last 2 questions. Well, one question, then first a comment, actually. Carmen says, I've had them for over 25 years, 3 different ones. So she's had them out and put back in. I've considered taking them out, but I'm extremely healthy, 0 issues, nothing wrong at all. Still researching, which is why I'm on the call. So okay. I've heard of that too. I mean, I've heard of people that have kept them in for 25 to 30 years and never taken them out. And then I've heard people who have done, replaced them and had no problems at all over time. And I think that's probably one of those things that it's like going to the dentist. When you go to the dentist, they clean your teeth and they're like, I don't see any sign of cavities. It's a maintenance thing. So if you're getting them out and there's no leaks and no problems like that, and you're doing it, if there is a right way to do them, that would be the right way, I guess, to, you know, replace them or take them out and replace them over time. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say that the conversation I would have with you would be a lot deeper than I don't have any symptoms. I would ask why you got breast implants to begin with. If you are somebody who got breast implants because you wanted to fix something about yourself, we're having a different conversation because there is a symptom there, and that's called lack of self-love, where you feel like you need to cut your body open or amend it. Perhaps, right? Perhaps. I'm not saying that that's you, but it might be deeper than that. And I would also say that if you say that you don't have symptoms, a lot of women, this is me too, and I was like, I don't have symptoms, and I have a bikini competition next week, so don't tell me to take them out. I wasn't having symptoms around the implant. So that was what I said, is I wasn't having symptoms that I thought would be associated with the breast implants. So I would say that, you know, how, if it is in fact in your way of perhaps some physical activity, or if you feel like your immune system is not functioning super well, there's a lot more to this. And I would also say, have you done a GI map? Have you done a GI panel to check the status of your inflammation, to check the status of your immune system? Because you could be one of those two types of people that symptoms just kind of like show up and all of a sudden you feel like crap. Some people really feel, and they're connected to their body, where they feel like a lot of symptoms that keep arising. So you might be listening to me and thinking, oh, that's none of me, but it's probably a separate conversation I would have with you. And then if we get complete with it and you say, Diane, I'm going to keep my implants, cool, you know, yay. You know, I'm not going to tell you that you need to take them out, but I will say that every woman has some kind of a reaction to them. It's just a matter of when and how bad will it need to get.
Yeah, but good for you for like literally being here, even though you have no problems, and just for wanting to stay on top of this and learning. Absolutely. So let's see here. Two more questions. Well, here's, okay, anonymous attendee. Any recommendations for supplements to support the body before breast implant removal, for explant? Is it called explantation?
Explant. Yeah,
explant. Okay.
Yeah. Sounds like the X-Files. It's like this alien in your body you're wanting to get out. That is in my book, because that's a long question, kind of like the lab question, right? But there are supplements that could be supportive. Now, I wouldn't go on a full-on detox protocol before you get your implants out. I would be very cautious about how much you give your body in terms of metabolic supplements or things that could increase your thyroid productivity, because a lot of women will get driven into a TH1 or TH2 dominant, and that's too sciencey for anybody. But I just like to say, let's get your pathways of detoxification open, right? Make sure that your lymphatic system is moving. Make sure that your stools are a banana twice a day, a brown banana twice a day. Make sure that you're moving, that you're touching your body. More of that than supplements prior to. Vitamin C, N-acetylcysteine, probiotics, adaptogens. Those are all very supportive. But I would say that as far as detoxification, don't even go there until after. And then that's when I start my clients on a full-on supplement detox protocol, because if we did it before, we just might be moving toxins. And if they're not leaving the body properly, then it could cause more problems, because if you pull a toxin from a safe space, which is in like a fat cell, and pull it out of that, it could go into your brain, because most women who have breast implants have leaky gut, leaky brain of some kind. And then it's causing an even worse problem, because it's now running around without being attached to something, and it's not safe, and now it's causing more problems. So that's what I say. I talk about that all in my book, a whole module on that, a whole module as far as just supplementation, a whole module on labs. But I'm almost done with my program so that you can listen to me speak like this. And then Carmen and I are going to have a whole place where you guys can come in and ask questions like this on a regular basis, so I can support you with more customization.
Yeah, perfect. All right, last question and we're wrapping up. So Kamala says, I changed my 15-year-old implants 4 years ago and have been so sick ever since. Can the new implant be the cause of this, but the old ones did not bother her?
Oh yeah, Camilla. Okay, great question. So what happens with that one is it's kind of like a root canal, right? When you have a root canal and you would hear endodontist say something completely different, the dentist say something completely different than a holistic dentist. I have a whole podcast I did on this too, you can go listen to on dentistry if you're curious. But these two are such a similar field in the sense that if the doctors are just changing out the implants but leaving the capsule intact, that's like that dead material, which is where there's a lot of bacteria and there's a lot of things that are harbored. And inside of the tissue that has created that capsule can also be some of those dead pieces. It's like a wound that's left in your body, right? And so a lot of doctors are just leaving that intact and just changing the implants out. So there's a lot of new research on this now, and it's always changing. But this is possibly that when they also took the implant out, a part of it may have ruptured, or you may have had a little bit of bleeding in the capsule that moved around throughout your body. And then you had endotoxemia and a lot of toxicity moving throughout the body. A lot of doctors or surgeons are not properly trained on this stuff. They just purely think it's crap. And it really threatens the bottom line of their business, where they would have to take some accountability. But a lot of surgeons are switching over from implanting to completely doing explanting. Why? Because they've seen so many patients come in sick, women like yourself that say, like maybe after a second when you come in, you say, I feel really terrible. And you might bring in my book and you might bring some of these questions, and that might open up the surgeon's eyes to going, do I really want to keep doing this to women? And that's how a lot of these surgeons have been conformed because of you, women like yourself going in and saying, something's wrong here. If they're open-minded enough to open you up and really do the deep dive research to say, at one point I was wrong, and that's okay. That's okay. I'm here to save your life, not to, save money in the pockets of the people who created these things. Yeah. So there's a lot more to all of this, but these are really great questions that continue to bring on more questions. So maybe we could do a part 2 or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just say this too, you guys, as a person, as anybody who is under the care of any kind of surgeon or you've had surgery and you have complications after that, one of the things that you can do is ask for the doctor's reports or the notes. That's your medical right to have access to the notes that were taken about the surgery or the images. When I had rotator surgery, I remember, coming out of it, and of course, you're like anesthesia, and you're like, what's up, right? The tip of my nose kept itching, and I kept trying to hit my nose, and they're trying to show me the pictures of what was going on with my shoulder, and I'm just like this. So afterwards, when I got my wits about me the next day, I called back and I'm like, can somebody please, like, now that I'm in my right mind for the most part, send me my notes, send me my images, like tell me, I need to see what you found and what's going on in there. So don't forget to have that. Like if you're struggling with a replacement implant, like see if they left that capsule in there, see if there was any extra infection in there. Was the implant leaking? Ask those questions. Even if it's already happened, you have the right to that medical knowledge. That is your record. So don't forget about the power of that.
And get it ASAP, because you know what happens, thanks for bringing this up, Carmen, is that after certain doctors are different, but after like 8 to 10 years, they don't have your records anymore. So I've had lots of clients that I've worked with, and I'm like, okay, get your records from your doctor, your original surgeon. What was the surgery like? There's a lot of detailed questions I like to ask to support you and through this journey. And this is how I found this out, is that, these clients, these patients talked to their doctor and they said, well, I need these records for this coach I'm working with, who's me. And they said, oh, we don't keep record after X years. So get them now, get them like when you have procedures done, then don't wait till later, ask for things. Do not be that person who is afraid to be that person. You are your own best healer, coach, doctor, guru, guide, lover, friend, all of it. So you don't have to be a bitch about when you ask. You just be like, hey, I just need my records. That's all.
Just you're asking. A white coat, people.
Yeah,
They don't get to raise our blood pressure just because they put a white coat on after they put their cigarette out. Okay, like we are just as powerful and strong and knowledgeable as they are in our lives, even more so about our bodies. And I can't wait to start diving into all this information. So last thing I'm going to share here is FYI, as Jill has shared here, she's a health coach. Moira has shared that she works with clients with these problems. So you guys, we have health coaches out there that understand these things, that are listening to these things right now because they're interested in helping people that have these problems. So if you are dealing with breast implant problems, or you wonder if you are, please go out to our registry at the ANWVC. And I always get the acronyms wrong because there's so many in my head, but I'm going to share that information. It's in your email replays. Get a health coach to come in and help you see your blind spots, right? And then make sure you're following us on Instagram, Coaches Against Censorship, because we're working on big things, but you got to follow us to find us when we get started. And you can find Diane and information about her book where?
If you guys go to my website, dianekazer.com, and you just click on the book, it will take you to a whole page, landing page, where you can buy it on Amazon for $14.95. Or if you want to wait until the end of this month, probably, I'm going to have it where you only pay for shipping, which is like $10. And you're going to get a whole bunch of stuff for free as bonuses with it. Like the videos where I interviewed the women who have been through this, a lot of these downloads, these checklists, the symptom surveys, the neurotoxic quiz, and then also the interview that I did with my surgeon, so that you could see the types of questions that I want you to ask on your first consultation with a possible surgeon, because I went through 11 of these appointments before I realized that a lot of them are just not fit for this. So there's a lot of questions. It's like a 2-page questionnaire that I have you walk into your doctor, your surgeon, and you're interviewing them. So that's all going to be a part of that. As you should.
Yeah,
so if you want to wait,
get on her list. So if you want to wait, get on her list. I'm sure you have an opt-in on your website.
I do.
Okay, so if something
take the neurotoxic quiz, take the neurotoxic quiz, you'll get on my list.
Yep, and then you'll be notified when she does that with her book, and that's a generous offer. So thank you so much, Diane. Thanks for spending this hour and 12 minutes with us. I love talking with you. We got a lot more ahead of us. Thanks for all the great questions and for everybody being here. Please make sure that you're sharing these Wednesday wellness webinars with anybody and everybody. It's for everyone who wants to take their health to another level and start understanding how they can be more empowered and in charge of the things that are happening to their lives. The only way we're going to get control of our health in this world and take it back from the powers that be is if we actually start sharing this information and telling people how powerful they are. So thank you so much for being here, Diane. I will text you when we hang up. Thanks, everybody. Bye, Mom. Love you. Bye.
Bye, ladies.